Welcome to our study of how different groups prioritize values for responsible AI. My name is Maurice and I'm presenting results of our collaboration with Zana, Bucinca, Saleema, Amershi, and Alexandra, Olteanu. Our study starts with guidelines for ethical or responsible AI, like the one you see here showing Microsoft's AI principles. Quite a few such guidelines have been published recently, and they propose values or principles that their authors find important for the responsible development of AI. We wanted to know whether they reflect values that a wider public cares about. If we asked, for example, a representative population, what values would they emphasize? And also, would groups underrepresented in the AI development process prioritize values differently? We chose an empirical, quantitative approach. For our method, we adopted the Schwartz Value Survey, which is a widely used instrument to study differences in human values. Here's an overview of our study. We first provided participants a quick intro to AI, and then asked them which values they found most important for AI systems in general. We introduced them to 4 different AI systems in specific deployment scenarios, where participants rated the importance of responsible AI values and recommended what developers should do when values conflicted. To field the study, we recruited 3 different groups: a US representative sample, a sample of AI practitioners, and a sample of crowd workers. What would we find? This graph shows the values that participants selected as the most important for AI systems in general. Representative participants chose safety, performance, and privacy as the most important values most often. The values that crowd workers emphasized were largely aligned with the representative sample, but in comparison, AI practitioners selected humanist values such as fairness, inclusiveness, or dignity more often. This graph shows what values people say developers should prioritize when in conflict. If you look at the conflicts on the left and right, we see a clear tendency in people's priorities. Across groups, participants said developers should prioritize privacy over performance and fairness, and safety over autonomy and transparency. There was more disagreement on the fairness-performance trade-off. Representative participants here were split on their responses, while the majority of AI practitioners would prioritize fairness over performance. We analyzed whether certain demographic groups prioritized fairness over performance more often, and found that liberal respondents tended to prioritize fairness over performance, and conservative respondents tended to prioritize performance over fairness. Somewhat surprisingly, participants with experiences of discrimination were as undecided on the fairness-performance trade-off as other groups. However, we found that women and Black respondents rated responsible AI values as more important in general than other groups. Our findings show that indeed different groups prioritize values for responsible AI differently. In particular, the value priorities of AI practitioners differ from those of the general public, highlighting how important it is to pay attention to who gets to define responsible AI. Thank you very much.